Hello everyone, welcome to all of you on my YouTube channel. So this session is about history optional students, and here we are going to discuss the strategies with the help of which you are going to consolidate your preparation. We know that there is a short span of 3 months of time between your prelims and mains examination, and it becomes very challenging for a student to effectively utilize those 3 months of time period. So this course has been designed in such a manner that will help you in the preparation of your history optional subject, revision of your history optional subject. You can easily consolidate what you have already learned in your foundational history program. Now, I will enter into details about this. I will also discuss with you that what is the importance of previous year questions in tackling the optional mains. Okay, the prelims previous year questions are very much important, so I will discuss with you all these things with some examples. So this is the very first lecture of our QIP program that we are launching for the history optional students who are going to appear in 2025. So let's begin the session. So right now I have already discussed with you that we have almost 3 months of time left for the mains examination. We have already made our class notes for history optional subject. There are a lot of printed booklets and the additional materials which have been provided by you, by your tutors, educators for the preparation of history optional subject. But a student is often puzzled that how I am going to effectively utilize it. Okay, so what is the most important part here is revision. It means that between prelims and mains examination, we need to develop effective strategies that how we are going to revise the themes that we have already learned in our foundational program. And effective revision is also an art. It's not a layman kind of thing. Those students who are having very smart strategy of their preparation, they are already very much aware about this part. It means there are some students who are very serious towards their aim. Okay, it means that they have already prepared their mind before joining any foundational program, that once the class will be covered, how am I going to revise the themes. Okay, but it's okay. I hope that some of you have already designed your plans for the effective revision, and some of you are still lacking with this aspect. So here I am to help you regarding this. Now, in this process of learning, I say that it takes time. Okay, when you want to make a good command over your optional subject, so definitely it takes time. Okay, but still there are so many students who clear this examination, okay, or who develop a good command over the history optional subject or any other optional subject within a few months of time. It means that I have had many examples of students who have prepared history optional in 3 to 4 months. But how were they able to do this? This is again a very important question. Okay, so I will also come to that. But here, these are the key mantras that you should keep in your mind, that between prelims and mains examination, what you have to do is you have to revise the themes that you have already covered in your foundational program, and then the role of test series cannot be neglected. It is non-negotiable. You cannot undermine the importance of test series. So this is one of the most crucial aspect. Okay, if you are clearing cutoff of prelims, then you must join any authentic test series to develop a good command of what you have learned. And the third and the most important thing is that only joining test series will not be sufficient, because many a times I see that students join test series and they get their answers evaluated. They also get some model answers on how to write a good answer. But what is missing at that point? So a detailed discussion of those PYQs is missing. So here, when you are joining any test series, okay, so at the same time you are getting solutions of the questions, but you should also do a detailed discussion over these topics with your teacher, or you can make some peers group. Okay, you can find a few friends who are also writing mains with history optional, and you should sit and discuss the themes that are given in that solution. And not only this, at this point you should also try to identify that what are the key elements that you are lacking in your answer, and you must make sufficient efforts to overcome those challenges. So that is one most important part, and for this QIP program has been designed. It means that apart from test series, there are certain areas where a student needs a detailed discussion from the subject experts and their teachers. Okay, but I think that this part is one product that we are lacking. Okay, so I think that this is the most important part. This is one of the most focused area. Okay, there are different category of students. For example, some students are not having a good confidence in ancient history. Okay, some students are not having good command in mapping portion. Some are not having good command over some of the topics in world history and modern Indian history. Okay, it means that you have developed a good command, but overall you find that there are some topics which you find difficult. So my program is designed in such a manner that, okay, if you find some difficulty in 2 chapters in world history, I will discuss with you separately. If you find some difficulty in 2 or 3 chapters or themes of ancient Indian history, I will discuss with you that separately. Okay, in medieval Indian history, if you find there is some difficulty in some chapters, I will deal with you separately. So obviously I can do this with only those students who are going to write the mains examination this year. Okay, so I will upload at least 10 to 15 videos, so that by watching videos also you can get some idea that how you can further streamline your preparation. And when prelims results comes, okay, then you can contact me, and okay, you can make a list of the topics where you are lacking, and I will discuss those topics with you separately. Okay, so this is one thing that I want to discuss with you, that I will help you in the revision of the themes and to consolidate what you have already learned in the foundational stage of your preparation. It does not matter that previously from where you have taken guidance. Each and every teacher contribute at their level. Okay, but here I will also help you or contribute you, okay, a little bit in your success. Okay, now the fourth thing is what? Repeat. It means you have to do what? You have to repeat the process again and again. Now what you are going to revise, you already have made class notes for that. Okay, I have already said that. Okay, from where you have got the guidance, it does not matter. Okay, each and every teacher, okay, you can say they do their best, they put their best efforts. Okay, and definitely you have selected some teacher on the basis of some demo videos or attending some demo lectures. So obviously you should have faith and confidence in your teacher. Okay, and that faith and confidence should be unshakable. Okay, now here you are going to revise your own notes. The first and the most important thing, it means you are not going to rush to the market to purchase new and new material. It means that you should have unshakable faith in your teacher, point one. And then second point is, you are going to revise your own notes, own handwritten notes, which you have made during your classes. Okay. It means that this mantra we need to remember that what matters is quality, not quantity. So we should not rush to get more and more printed material and books during this 3 months duration, because that will divert us from our original objective, main objective. Okay, so we are not going to do this. We are having our class notes, we are having our printed booklets of any coaching or any institute. Now what we need to do after this is that we have to practice past papers. And in the beginning also I have said, and I have said that this session, this entire product which I am launching today, is History Optional QIP and PYQ section. I have combined both these two things. And what is the reason behind this? The reason behind this is that, okay, once you are writing test papers, you will get detailed answer for that, but you will also get a discussion over the themes that are important to know to add quality in your preparation. And that's why this is quality improvement program. Okay, and why this is quality improvement program and why practicing PYQs is important, I will try to make you understand with a few examples, because this is a session where I will give some example to validate my point, and then from the next lecture I will enter into the detailed discussion of the topics. Okay, now the next important point here is that what matters is you have to improve your quality, and this can be done through the detailed discussion. And during these detailed discussion, okay, we are going to provide you some value addition points in each and every chapter where you can further enhance the level of your preparation. Okay, now for example, this is a question. Obviously I will take some example, but before taking this question, let's discuss a few more things. For example, we are taking one part, okay, to validate my point, and that today I am going to take an example from paper 2 of History Optional. You all know that in History Optional, paper 1 covers ancient Indian history and medieval Indian history. ठीक है आवाज जा रही है? हाँ. And paper 2 covers modern Indian history and world history, right? So there are two parts. So I am taking an example from paper 2 and section A. Section is modern India, and I am taking example of one chapter from paper 2 section A. And the first chapter in modern Indian history in History Optional paper is what the chapter's name is written here, that is European penetration into India. This is the very first chapter that has been given in your syllabus, European penetration in India, right? And I hope that you all have read about this chapter in your foundational classes, and this chapter is common with your GS syllabus also. Why it is important to understand, you will realize it after a few minutes, that the same chapter is a part of our GS syllabus also. The same chapter is a part of our History Optional syllabus also. So what is the difference? And what is the different approach that we need to handle this chapter in optional paper? This is very much important. Many a times we often misunderstood GS syllabus to be the optional syllabus. Yes, the themes are similar, okay, and here the overlapping myth appears that the themes are similar, okay. So you all have studies that what were the circumstances in Europe, okay, which compelled or which motivated the Europeans to come to India. We read it in modern Indian history. We also read about important socio-economic and political changes that were happening in Europe at that time in GS paper. We also read that why Portuguese came to India, right? How they started acquiring territories, okay? And how they also tried to build an empire, but there are some limitations due to which they failed. On the same pattern, we read about Dutch also, we read about English also, we read about French also, we read about Danes also, and we read a lot of facts in this process. Now, in mains paper, we don't require those hundreds of facts that we have read during our GS preparation, right? So we don't need to revise a lot of facts here. Okay, so eliminate all those facts. You have to remember only the most important developments. Okay, what are the most important developments in this chapter? That European powers, their penetration to India started somewhere in 15th century, that is 1498. You all know Portuguese Vasco da Gama came to India, and within 3 to 4 centuries we see that apart from Portuguese, Dutch were there, English were there, French were there, and Danes were there. They all were present in India. And finally, British were successful in laying down the foundation of a colonial rule. Okay, and gradually what happened? Okay, the transformation of India took place. Why I am saying transformation of India? Because before this event, India was basically a kind of having mosaic structure that was supported by different regional rulers, and there was also a central authority, but the control and dominance of that central authority was variable. It kept changing from times to time. So this transformation took place, and now India became a British dominated colony. We have already read about the causes, about the context why Europeans came to India, which kind of policies were used by them, what are the strategies that they were following. Okay, there was already a rivalry between different trading companies. Okay, with East India Company, English East India Company, there was rivalry with English East India Company and with the regional rulers. We already have studied it in our GS paper. Okay, we are also familiar with what was the impact of this process on trade and commerce, deindustrialization, drain of wealth, right? All this we have studied in our GS paper, right? I think that we already have studied here. Now, in syllabus also, what has been given? The early European settlements, the Portuguese and Dutch, the English and the French, East India companies, their struggle for supremacy. It means particularly here, English and French struggle has been mentioned. And English and French struggle, we all know, are Carnatic Wars. And finally, there is another chapter, that is Bengal. Okay, the conflict between the English and the Nawabs of Bengal, Shiraz and English, the Battle of Plassey, significance of Plassey. Okay, if you will open your notes, you will find that you all have met or written some points in your notes regarding these topics or regarding these developments. आप सबके notes में होगा. I think that each and every one of you is having some printed booklet or some handwritten text where you will find that you have maintained a good notes of all these developments. Now, what we need to do now after prelims, if you are thinking that you are going to clear the cutoff and you are going to write the examination, so what should be the second step? Okay, first step you have already done. So second step is what? You will have to do an analysis of the previous year questions. That is the second step and most crucial step. And this you are going to do before starting the revision of any chapter. It means that you are going to revise chapter 1. But before that revision, what you need to do? You need to have a look on the previous year questions. You will have to examine the nature of the questions, and on the basis of that you will plan your revision, and that revision will be an effective revision. For example, when I observed this chapter 1, European penetration into India, and when I observed the questions, previous year questions that have been asked in the last 15 to 20 years. So I got sufficient number of questions from this chapter. And finally, what I did, I divided this chapter into two parts. Okay. It means that chapter 1, for revision, we are dividing it into two parts. That is part A and part B. In part A, we are going to keep those questions that are related to early European settlements and colonial rivalries. We will put all the questions that are related to this theme in this category, and the second category, we will put all the themes that have been asked from this topic: Bengal, Palasi, rise of British power, all those questions which have been asked related to this theme, we will put it in section B. And after this bifurcation, you will see, okay, there are a lot of questions that has been asked. For example, part 1, okay, early European settlements and colonial rivalries. Okay, these questions, the years has also been mentioned here. You will find that they are related to this particular theme, more or less. Okay, and there are some questions which covers both the themes. Okay, and I will identify those questions. But here, for example, in 2006, there was a question that neither Alexander the Great or Napoleon, okay, neither Alexander the Great or Napoleon could have won the Empire of India, starting from Pondicherry as a base and contending with a power which held Bengal and command of the sea. Comment. Okay. So this question needs, for example, this theme is related to section B also. Okay. Why? Because it's talking about Bengal. Okay. The strategic significance of Bengal, right? So this theme is related to that B part also, and this theme is interdisciplinary in nature, that when we are writing answer, there are some references of Alexander and Napoleon, plus there are other themes like a strategic importance of Bengal, Pondicherry. This we need to discuss. Okay, in the same way, there is a second question, 2012, and the question is, compared to their English counterpart, the French East India Company enjoyed little discretionary power and had to always look up to Paris for all major decisions. This partly explains the failure of French in India. Critically examine. All of you are familiar with the content of the answer, that French company, what were the limitations, okay, and the reasons that were responsible for the failure of French company, and what were the strategic advantages of British over the French. This is related to this particular theme. Now, question number 3 is, Dupleix made a cardinal blunder in looking for the key of India in Madras. Okay, Clive sought and found it in Bengal. Okay, so when you will find question number, this question 2006 and 2013 question, you will find that, okay, both are talking about strategic significance of Bengal, because that was one important factor due to which British were successful in India. Okay, now 2016 question, comment on the French ambition of building a territorial empire in India. Obviously, when you will write about French ambition, you will write that their ambitions could not be successful. French failed. So what are the limitations? You will write in your answer. These are the general things that you are going to write in your answer. What is the value addition? I will discuss with you later. Okay, what I am saying, the ideas you already have in your notes and you will write in your answers, but what is the value addition, that I am going to discuss with you later. Now the next question that was asked in 2019, it reads that, do you subscribe to the view that Anglo-French tussle in Carnatic demonstrated the internal decay of the provincial chieftains of the South India? Now you already are familiar with the content, okay, that what you are going to write. Anglo-French rivalries, right? How Hyderabad, Karnataka states were involved. Okay, this all is a part of this. Okay, now in general sense, you are going to write those points in your answers. Okay, now 2020 it was Dupleix who had first showed the way of intervening in disputes of the Indian rulers and therefore acquiring political control over the vast territories, a technique which was later utilized or perfected by the East India Company. It means that East India Company largely followed the policy of Dupleix, right? So Dupleix, you already have studied, okay, which kind of policy Dupleix followed, and the reflection of these policies, how it was seen in the policy of subsidiary alliance. You all know this. So obviously you are going to write these stuff in your answer, right? 2024, the question is, after the Battle of Plassey, the mercenary became the kingmaker. Examine it critically. Mercenary became the kingmaker. Mercenary means we are talking about AIC soldiers. AIC was maintaining an army, that is mercenary. The soldiers were recruited, paid and commanded by East India Company. So how they became the rulers, you will have to examine it critically. So in the very first glance, we are able to get some idea that these ideas we are going to put in your answer, okay, in the very first glance. It means that the notes which you have will give you sufficient stuff or the content to write answer of these questions, right? Now the second part, Bengal Palasi and the rise of British power, right? So the questions here are, you will find 1992, on 23rd June 1757, the Middle Ages of India ended and her modern age began. Discuss, how did British conquer Bengal in 18th century? What circumstances helped them? You have to discuss. After 1757, there grew up a state of Bengal, which was sponsored state as well as plundered state, right? The Battle of Plassey was not a great battle, but it was a great betrayal. Comment. Discuss the causes that led to the economic drain in Bengal following the Battle of Plassey. Okay. Plassey did not complete the British conquest of India. Had the English been convincingly defeated in any subsequent battle in India, then the Battle of Plassey would have remained as a minor episode in the history of India. Critically examine. After the Plassey, how did India transit from the medieval to the modern age? Okay, the Battle of Plassey thus marked the beginning of political supremacy of the English East India Company in India. Critically examine. The Battle of Plassey was a skirmish. Skirmish means jhadap. Okay, while the Battle of Buxar was a real war. Okay, in this part also you can put this question, that after the Battle of Plassey, the mercenary became the kingmaker. Examine critically. Okay, so what you have to do, step number 1, you will have to collect the questions that have been asked, and when you look at the questions, you will find that more or less the questions are covering, okay, some static areas only. Okay, it means that the language of the question is difficult, but still there is an element of repetition. This we are able to see in the very first glance, that we are able to write the answers of these questions on the basis of notes that we have already prepared. Okay, so what is the value addition in this process? What we are not able to see here, okay, when we are absorbing superficially, we are looking at our content, but there is a historical perspective of all these questions which we generally miss, because when we join classes for history optional, we are basically freshers. Okay, and many a times it has been suggested by many teachers that when you will cover history optional, you are going to cover your GS also, so you should join history optional, and that is good for business, but that is not good for the students. So when you join optional, okay, you are not prepared, you are not very much familiar with the core elements of GS, and this is the reason that a larger part of the time that a teacher consumes while teaching history optional is spent in dealing with the basic facts and informations. So what you get as a product, instead of optional, you are getting GS, okay, and a little bit of optional, because a good understanding of optional depends on a very good understanding of your general studies part of history. Okay, why I am saying this, you will be able to learn this. Now I will take one example. So let's take the latest question from this part, that is this question 2024. After the battle of Plassey, the mercenary became the kingmaker. Okay, so let's take this example only. After the battle of Plassey, the mercenary became the kingmaker. Okay, so let me help you in this process. So the question is 2024 question, that after the battle of Plassey, it means we are talking about a very famous battle that was fought in history, and it was fought on 23rd June 1757, right? After this battle of Plassey, mercenary became kingmakers. Mercenary became kingmakers. This is the question. So there are two words, mercenary, kingmakers, that you need to highlight. Okay, battle of Plassey you need to highlight. Now all of you are familiar with this very famous battle of Plassey. So in the very first glance you will have this idea कि कुछ लिख देते हैं, right? Like EIC came and they are having soldiers, professional soldiers, right? They intervened in the affairs of the local rulers, or they used their policy of divide and rule, like this kind of thing. Okay, finally they placed themselves in a position that they were the puppet rulers, and later they became, okay, the rulers. So you will get a sense कि ऐसा कुछ लिखना है, but it's not like that. Okay, in this question, first you need to, there are historical perspectives that are related to this question, and not only this question, each and every question has some historical perspective. Okay, for example, here when we talk about this question, so obviously there are two things. One is what, one word that has been used here is mercenary. It means what, there was a company that was East India Company, and which did what? So this East India Company recruited soldiers. Okay, it means that a trading company is recruiting what? Soldiers. And not only recruiting soldiers, but these soldiers are also paid by East India Company, and these soldiers are also commanded by East India Company, right? And they are what? They are professionally well trained soldiers. They are professionally well trained soldiers. Okay, that's why we are calling them mercenary, right? This is point one. But in historical debates, okay, there is a historian, and the name of that historian is Percival Spear. Okay, the name of that historian is Percival Spear. Okay, and that historian highlighted this point, that when we say East India Company as a mercenary only, so saying them mercenary only does what? It oversimplifies the process. It was a complex process that took place here, right? It means that it was a kind of nexus. Okay, we cannot, it means that it is like undermining, okay, the complex nature of what East India Company was doing at that time. It means that here when we are saying that the mercenary, it means that this is doing what? This is oversimplifying the process. The process was very much complex. And what was this complex nature of this process? The complex nature was that, okay, there was a commercial nexus which was being followed. And not only this commercial nexus was also supported by the sovereign authority, and due to which it became possible that the mercenaries became kingmakers. Okay, it means that they themselves were a kind of sovereign authority. Later AIC became rulers. Okay, and later this sovereign authority was supported by some other sovereign authority. Okay, so this is one historical perspective that we find. Okay, in the same way, the second important historical perspective, okay, is the opinion of a very famous historian, that is the opinion of Irfan Habib, right? And he underlines the reason behind this process, that how it all happened. And his focus is on identifying, for example, Irfan Habib, what he does. So Irfan Habib tried to identify structural weakness, structural weakness of structural weakness in feudal India. It means the nature of Indian political system was largely feudal. Okay, and there were some structural weakness, and due to this structural weakness, what happened? These mercenaries were successful in becoming the kingmakers. It means that the economic and political developments that took place in India as a result of as a result of English East India Company. Okay, so this was a symptom of what? Okay, the kind of political and economic system which we are having in our feudal structure, feudal political structure. In this way, he tried to identify, right? Now, the third and important point here is that there is one more point in this process, that mercenary became the kingmakers. In this process, there was also an ethical question that was involved. And what was that ethical question that was involved here? Okay, that the ethical question was that, okay, was this process accidental or it was well planned? This we need to understand. The first important victory of East India Company in India, that is Battle of Plassey, right? Was it a real battle or this was a betrayal? This is also one aspect or one idea that we need to understand. It means what East India Company was doing in India was, in the name of governance, they were doing what? They were plundering the resources, and for that they used mercenaries, right? It means that what AIC was doing, okay, the process was aimed for plundering the economic wealth of India, but it was masked as governance, right? And in this entire process, what happened? These companies, especially French companies, English East India Companies, since English East India Company was successful, so we are talking about English East India Company. What English East India Company did? This English East India Company promoted a culture that is called mercenary culture, right? And the Indian people were attracted towards this mercenary culture. They opted to become soldiers in English East India Company because they were getting regular salaries in this process, right? So when we are saying mercenaries, they were not only British people. A major chunk of these mercenaries were Indian soldiers, okay, who themselves came, okay, they helped and they supported English East India Company. They supported this structure in establishing their political control over our country. This is one part. I hope you are getting my point. And this is what 18th century India. It means that when we are talking about 23rd June 1757, this is what 18th century in India. So in 18th century India, and at the same time in 18th century in Europe, the nature of political developments were completely different. For example, if we take the example of French Revolution 1789, that is 18th century. So what was happening in that French Revolution? So French Revolution promoted a kind of sense of nationalism among French people, and as a result, what happened? National armies came into existence, and these national armies were motivated by the patriotism, okay, by the love for their nation. But at the same time, what is happening in India? In mercenary, we find a large chunk of these soldiers are Indian soldiers. It means the kind of growth of nationalism that was happening in Europe, that was missing at this point of time in India. So this is one point. Okay. Now, what we need to understand here is that we don't need to write or mention the name of historians while writing answer, right? For example, I told you that Percival Spear was having this opinion that calling mercenary, using this word, oversimplifies the process. The process was very complex. It was a kind of commercial and military nexus, and this commercial and military nexus was yielded with a sovereign authority. This is one point that I want to say. But we don't need to mention the name of historians, Percival Spear or Irfan Habib, right? So when you read this chapter, chapter number 1, European penetration in India, so you will find that there is a historiographical perspectives also. There are some historians who belong to Cambridge School. For example, P.J. Marshall, Anil Seal, C.A. Bailey. There are some nationalist historians like R.C. Mazumdar, Marxist historians, okay, Indian Marxist historians like Irfan Habib, R.P. Dutt, Bipan Chandra. There are so many historians here. So what we need to understand is that we need to incorporate, or we need to discuss the opinion of these historians, okay, their opinions. It means that, okay, we are not going to make a very static kind of notes where we are going to write the name of historian and the opinion, because in that situation we will not be able to use that notes effectively. So what we need to discuss? The opinions, different opinions, okay, about European settlements, Portuguese, Dutch in India. We need to discuss different opinions. So when you will discuss different opinions, what will happen? You already have a content or your class notes or your printed material which you have revised again and again, and now you are revising also. So at this time you will add some important information in your mind, okay, and that is not unnecessary stuff, because when these ideas will be discussed, ultimately what will happen? You will be in a situation to decode the statement based questions that are asked in optional paper. And I have found that each and every question that have been asked here, okay, is motivated by some opinion by some historians. For example, okay, if we talk about P.J. Marshall, okay, you don't need to study historiography separately. Okay, for example, here if we take the example of P.J. Marshall, okay, so P.J. Marshall opinion or his works are related to this colonial system of administration. यहाँ पे इनका ठीक ठाक काम है. For example, okay, he has done great works on administrative achievements, and he has written a lot on the impeachment of Warren Hastings, right? And he has also written about how British discovered Hinduism in 18th century. So it means that the opinion of P.J. Marshall will give us an idea that what is British outlook towards socio-cultural developments, thought practices that are being promoted in 18th century India. He has also discussed or written in detail about East India Company, how EIC made its fortunes in India in 18th century. Great work of P.J. Marshall. Okay, P.J. Marshall also writes in detail about how in 18th century imperial expansion was being done, okay, not only in India but also in America and other parts of the world, how this imperial expansion was being done. Okay, British were doing what? British were expanding their political power. And when British were expanding their political power, what were they doing? So they were doing this with a system of collaboration. They were expanding their political power with a system of collaboration. And here, the units with which the British were collaborating were the local zamindars, were the local bankers, okay, were the local nawabs or the local regional rulers. So they were collaborating with these people, and in this way they were expanding their political power. He has written about Palasi, he has written about Buxa, okay. He has also written about drain of wealth. Obviously he will not support the process of drain of wealth, but what he did is that, okay, he was critical of this process of drain of wealth, right? It means that critical of this process of drain of wealth, what does it means? It means that he will criticize this theory. He will say that Indians are believing that there is a kind of unilateral transfer of wealth from India to Britain, but they forget that in this process, okay, a small group of Indians are also getting benefits and they are supporting in this process, okay. So the point is that why we need to discuss these things. For example, Percival Spear is a British historian, and he is putting forward his opinions or the views regarding the understanding of this colonial system of administration. So you will find that the Indian historians or the Indian Marxist historians, Bipan Chandra or Irfan Habib or R.C. Mazumdar, obviously will have some different opinions that is different from the opinions of Percival Spear or P.J. Marshall, right? So when you will discuss these opinions, okay, in detail, you don't need to write the name of historian, but you need to discuss the ideas. In that situation, you will be able to write a critical answer, okay, and that will give your answer value addition, right? So there are questions where your opinion is asked. Are you supporting this statement or not? There are so many kind of questions. So unless you don't have a broader vision of looking at these things, you will not be able to solve these questions, okay. It means that something you will write, okay, but that something is not excellent, okay. So to make your task excellent, what is needed? PYQ session, where first you will do what? You will write answer of all those questions that have been previously asked in your exam, okay. That is PYQ session. For example, these are the questions that have previously been asked in your exam, okay. So you will write first, then in discussions you will add some points, or you can further refine your vision, okay, and that will make you better. For example, all these questions, these are model questions, okay, of our QIP program. These model questions has been designed in such a manner that they incorporate the outlook of different historians, but you will find that none of these questions had the name or reference of any historian, okay. You will not find the name of any historian in any of these questions. Why? Because the questions are designed in such a manner, okay. So unless you don't understand the philosophy, the process which is being followed behind framing the questions, so your answer will be simple layman's language, okay. Your answer will not be excellent. So whenever I say that, okay, history optional is somewhat easier than GS, so this is one reason, because in GS we need to read the things in minutest details for covering the prelims examination, but mains you will find that the things are completely different, okay. So if you will read history with a different perspective, you will find that it's not overloaded with facts, okay. You will be able to understand the things very easily. For example, what I discussed, mercenary and kingmakers, I did not discuss the answer here. I will discuss the answer in 150 words. I will also display the answer here. But right now I have only discussed the approaches, that when we are saying mercenary became the kingmakers, so there are different ideas which can be related, okay, while critically examine the answer of that question. So when you will start thinking in this manner, so you will find that you will develop an excellent command over answer writing in your mains examination. For example, in these model questions, the first question is critically examining the view that the establishment of early European settlements in India marked the beginning of a structural shift in Indian economy, right? Was it a structural shift in Indian economy only? No. So in answer you will highlight this, that no, it was not a structural shift in Indian economy only, okay, in Indian political system, economy, society, everywhere you will find that this colonial establishments or European settlements in India are going to bring a lot of changes, but these changes were guided, okay. So this is what, this is a question that is opinion based question, okay. Critically examine the argument that Indian rulers failed to recognize the long term political implications of European commercial presence. Critically examine the extent to which naval and military superiority enabled European powers to gain a foothold in India during the 16th and 18th century. This is also a historical opinion based question. So all these questions are in the same manner, they are historical opinion based questions, right? All these questions. It means there are 10 model questions here. So basically I want to discuss with you the idea which I am going to follow during this program is that first step, what we are going to do, first step is what? First step is you will revise your own notes, okay, own class notes from where you have got your classes, okay. The second thing is what? Okay, you will be given PYQs and you will write the answer of these PYQs. Then you will get a detailed answer of these PYQs along with the discussions. And the fourth point is value added discussions for each and every chapter. For example, this is chapter number 1. So all historical opinions will be discussed with you here. So you already know the story. So when I will discuss historical opinion, so you'll be comfortable with it, okay? And this will give you confidence to write the answer, right? So this is the very basic idea here, that PYQ session means what? Writing answer, discussing the questions that has already been asked in examination, and then having a detailed analysis of these answers, and then having a detailed discussion over the value addition material. And after this, okay, there are 10 questions here, model questions. You don't need to write the model questions, but when you will make a answer format of these model questions, you will be in a position to make an estimate or evaluate yourself that the discussions are fruitful or not, right? So this is the very basic purpose. So I will suggest all the history optional students that you should not waste your time, okay. There is a lot of debate going on about the cutoff predictions, right? So without thinking about the cutoff predictions, right, a good student does what? Because if you are somewhere in a dilemma that I am going to write mains or not, so in this process your 1 month will be wasted, okay. So finally, suppose you are thinking that I'm not going to write mains, and there is a sudden turn of events कि कुछ 1-2 number का difference रहा, and you are going to write the mains examination. So in this situation the things will be more problematic for you. So what is the better idea? That prelims exam is over, now take a rest for 4 or 5 days and then make a plan, and obviously if you are not clearing prelims exam this year, so next year you are going to do this, okay. So consolidating your history optional which you have already studied is a better idea, right? So in this way I will help you. So first 10 sessions I will put here on internet, right? Modern India there will be a lot of classes here. So first 10 sessions in modern India I will put here, so that you could have a better understanding of what I'm going to do in my classes. Okay, and then till then the results will be out. Okay, and once the results are out, okay, you can contact me. Okay, and then if you are in, finally if you are writing mains examination, so I will work with you. So this program is especially for those students who will write mains this year, and number will not matter. If even a single student will contact me, I will discuss the themes with that single student, so that does not matter. Okay, 1 2 3 students, whatever be the number. Okay, if you will contact me, I will help you in this process, right? And those students who are the newcomers, they can also get some idea from these strategy sessions, and in this way they can plan their preparation accordingly. So I hope this session might be fruitful to you. Thanks for watching the video. Thanks to all of you.